It's very difficult to criticise not Diana herself, the woman, the individual, but the kind of the Diana sort of performance which it became. Because obviously it's, how do you talk about something when somebody has died? It's very difficult. But, Diana signalled...
People, I don't know if this is apocryphal, Ella, but somebody told me they'd listened to a radio phone in the days that followed. It went like this: well, I was upset when my gran died, but nothing like this. These were people who had, they had nothing in common with this woman. I mean, again, I was a Diana fan. I criticised the reaction and the way it was stoked up by my tribe in particular. I remember interviewing Ian Hislop, the editor of Private Eye, and he said, it was you lot in the rolling news business. Look, people are laying flowers. Next day, more people are laying flowers. Next day, you better go along and lay some flowers because it's a thing, it's a phenomenon.
Yes, but I think that Diana was, for me anyway, Diana is very important, not because of the charity work she did, lots of people do charity work, whatever, but because of the way in which she marks the change in the royals in terms of the introduction of celebrity, of which she very much, she embraced herself as being the, OK, Blair called her the People's Princess, but she was the one that went to the hospitals, that did the, public kind of crying, hugging the kids and all that kind of thing. Very much in the same way that you see your average LA A-list celebrity now doing the same, going off to some African nation and hugging a black kid. There's that kind of distasteful kind of celebrity element to it, which she harnessed very well and obviously ended up being part of her tragic end. But I think, that sort of the sucking of the politics out of the royal family, which I think was embedded in Diana, which was that you could know it's very hard to make a political argument I might make about democracy and the crown, and the makeup of British politics and the way in which it's run, because everybody kind of says, but look at Diana, she was a lovely person, she did lovely charity work. And ever since then, the defence of the royal family has not been the kind of old school one that maybe the Queen embodies, which is about constitutional stability or, the idea of the sublime and having a kind of monarch that is that represents something. But it's about, what do Harry and Meghan do, before they were ousted, do for charity? What do... I can't even remember the other two. This is how uninterested in the royals I am.
For you, Ella.
Kate
for you.
William.
It's our future Queen and head of state. By the way, OK, I'm going to stop you there because
it's the celebrity element.
I think generationally you missed it, and I think were you 10 years old, 15, 20 years older, you would have been as irate as I was. I mentioned Private Eye. Private Eye they took it off the newsstands in the week after Diana died because people objected to the front cover. Now, you'd have been in the trenches about that, going, what about free speech?
Absolutely.
Because what happened was that the country just had this bits of the country had this collective nervous breakdown. And I think 25 years on, that's the moment you can, with some dignity, reflect on whether that was a good thing, whether it was damaging, whether it was helpful, whether it was potty. I happen to think it was. And worth reflecting, too, that even on the day of the funeral itself, which was, the nation stopped, half the country didn't switch on their tellies to watch it. OK, so I know there'll be people screaming at their telly saying, how dare you disrespect I'm not. She was a wonderful woman in many respects who did a lot of good for the royal family and for other great causes. I quibble with the reaction to her death, aided and abetted by the tabloid press, by Tony Blair as well, who demanded that our Queen come down and walk around amongst her subjects outside Buckingham Palace. It was a disgrace.
And I think it's very important to point out, you've alluded to the question of press freedom and, having Private Eye taken off the stands and things like that. I think it is really important to be able not to bring Meghan Markle into this. I don't think Meghan Markle should be brought into everything. But I think there's a similar, the whole kind of way in which celebrity and the royal family gets enmeshed means that it's very difficult to make political arguments against these people, very serious, questions of press freedom to be able to talk about them, whether it's stuff related to Andrew, whether it's stuff related to Meghan Markle, there is still a question around the royal family about openness, which might be an obvious one. They're not the most open family in the world for obvious reasons. But there is the more that we focus on the celebrity of Diana or Markle or anyone, the less able we are to have frank, open conversations about what role these people play in the functioning of British society, of which Diana, as a member of the royal family at a certain point, did play a role and was part of that question that I want to ask about democracy and British politics. And so I think the reason why I said fair play to you is because I think even still after 25 years, there is this remaining kind of... maybe it's because I'm Irish, Colin, I've never been able to get over the kind of British devotion to the royal family. But I think in particular Diana encompassed that.
Okay.